Thank you for inviting me to speak about local climate action. It's an honor to participate in these conversations with such exceptional people dedicated to improving the lives of others. I deeply cherish living in this bioregion where the treasures of the natural world, a diversity of citizens, plants, insects, birds, and critical resources such as clean water and clean air are vital components of the health and prosperity of this interconnected community we all call home. In order to promote harmony between people, it will be necessary for us to create ever-improving systems of sharing resources, and that includes sharing with the environment. Rather than living depleting consumer lifestyles, it's time to learn to regenerate and choose the systems that give back to the earth, that give back to each other, so that our food systems, our energy, our built environments, and our transportation all support a thriving abundance for all. One of the most important steps we can take in this planetary crisis is to reconnect with the land and the biosphere of which we are a part. I was born in Santa Barbara and have lived in Ojai as long as I can remember, but I am still new to this land. Most of us are. My family are immigrants, and I imagine many of us here identify as being from somewhere else. I feel it is important to acknowledge that long before many of our families were here, this land was cared for and inhabited by the Barbareño-Vintereño band of Chumash people. As a community organizer for Extinction Rebellion, I believe it is our responsibility as relative newcomers to this region to support and learn from those who have been here, who have been in tune with the land and its myriad native species for millennia. Colonialism has taken a major toll here in Ojai, and we are clearly facing the consequences of exploiting the land and oppressing the indigenous culture that protects bioregional wisdom and promotes a more mutual relationship between humans and the earth. Lake Casitas and Ojai Valley Inn were both built on former sites of Chumash villages that were violently displaced and forced to live on reservations that were also taken away only a few years later. Our society has been terribly destructive to indigenous heritage, but that does not mean that their culture is not present and in fact necessary today. There are thousands of Chumash families in this area currently trying to gain federal recognition that would enable the return of land to indigenous care. To quote the Santa Ynez Band of Chumash Indians, to Native Americans, sovereignty is not possession of the land, nor power or control over it. It is the living relationship between the people and the land that they live on. National Geographic magazine recently pointed out that indigenous people now protect 80% of Earth's remaining biodiversity. So we must breathe life into our obligations to these communities and the treaties that recognize their sovereignty. This is an intense time to be an environmental protector. There's a powerful contrast of hope and overwhelm with everything going on. But I personally have been feeling extra motivated after witnessing so many communities come together during this week of youth climate strike activity. It's incredibly heartening to see the call to action being answered by so many across generational divides, across ethnicities, across the world. We are waking up to what it will take to conceive a healthy, living planet. Millions of people worldwide are answering the call to protect our natural resources and defend the places and the diverse life that we depend upon. Your actions make a difference. We absolutely have the power to change things drastically and avert more unnecessary damage to the natural world. Unfortunately, the most effective tool that fossil fuel and other destructive corporate political interests rely on is a widespread sense of disempowerment. I often hear, "What difference will it make if I strike? My vote doesn't even count." How is standing in the street going to change anything? It changes things because it makes us feel. It makes us connect again to the truly valuable things in life: nature, connectedness, community, health, nourishment, and hope. I invite you all to consider how much hope you can spread by joining the youth this week in addressing City Council on Tuesday with a profound vision of what our town can do to protect our natural resources for generations to come. Of utmost importance and urgency is the current process of creating a Citizens Climate Mobilization Assembly. Such a committee empowers the community to establish high-priority strategies to achieve emissions reductions at emergency speed and prioritizes the most vulnerable people and Indigenous sovereignty. It establishes reparations for years of environmental injustice and enacts remediation led by and for Indigenous people, people of color, poor communities, and establishes legal rights for ecosystems to regenerate in order to maintain a livable and just planet for all. We can have a massive impact by showing up to the call for our elected officials, both in this city and in the wider county, to change the current course of environmental harm. Stop relying on fossil fuels. Make sure no more poisons are dumped into our water. Prohibit any new oil permits. Stop spraying toxic chemicals into our air. Stop investing our tax dollars and retirement funds in anything that jeopardizes life. And start funding the restoration of our ecosystems. Think about how much more enthusiasm for the future we can inspire by standing up for the planet now and defending the rights of those who come after us to live healthy and peaceful lives. By standing with the youth today who are demanding change by striking every Friday. They skip school because they don't know if their future is something they can even count on, let alone study for. We cannot continue with business as usual. The consideration of even the slightest risk of danger to our youth is more than enough reason to listen to their request for clean energy, clean food, clean water, and a clean air future. Yet we are now far beyond the point of considering slight risks. Every half degree of climate change translates into half of humanity experiencing hazardous water droughts that far surpass the droughts we have lately endured. 10 million more people losing their homes to rising sea level, including thousands in Ventura County. And 50% of the species on Earth that we depend upon would lose their livable habitat. Not to mention here in California, every half degree of added heat multiplies the size of annual forest fire burn by 800%. The rate of damage to a livable Earth is not worth risking. We must take every action to prevent it. Even when our actions feel small, they add up rapidly. One small action has the power to exponentially expand and inspire others. Look at what Greta Thunberg has done in just 1 year. To quote Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, hope is not something you have. Hope is something that you create with your actions. Hope is something you have to manifest into the world. And once one person has hope, it's contagious. Those who would benefit from more destruction and more conflict, they're counting on us to mistakenly keep thinking that our voices don't have an impact. Let's show them how wrong they are. Extinction Rebellion.